What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs. And we've got some breaking news this morning. I was actually just about to go to sleep. I'm working nights currently for my regular job, and I'm sitting at home scrolling through Twitter, and all of a sudden I see the breaking news that the Kansas City Chiefs are bringing back wide receiver JuJu Smith-Schuster on a one-year deal, reuniting him with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes after being cut by the New England Patriots just a few weeks ago. So my initial reaction, you're getting my raw live reaction basically right here. I really like this signing. And no, it's not because I think the Kansas City Chiefs are getting the same JuJu Smith-Schuster even from 2 years ago when he was their leading receiver on that 2022 Super Bowl winning team. I believe that JuJu's knee is still having issues, and that has kind of led to his demise in New England. However, I will say about his situation in New England, I don't think any wide receiver really could have succeeded in that situation in New England. It was terrible quarterback play. Bill Belichick clearly was checked out. That just was not a very good team. It wasn't a good situation for JuJu. We know that Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense has made a lot of mediocre receivers look a lot better than they are. And that's not to say that JuJu Smith is mediocre, although he may be a mediocre receiver now. That's okay because the Chiefs have built a lot of depth in their receiver room, and signing JuJu Smith-Schuster once again is just adding more wide receiver depth. The top three is pretty clear in Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and Xavier Worthy, and that's in no particular order. The Chiefs have their guys at wide receiver. At best, JuJu Smith-Schuster is going to be your wide receiver 4, and that's at best. This signing more so affects those players at the bottom of the depth chart that were still kind of fighting for a spot on this team. So I'm looking at Justin Ross, McCole Hardman, Kadarius Toney, and Sky Moore. This is a move that's going to push them, and this is a move that potentially is going to push one of them off the team that previously was probably going to sneak onto the roster, because you're not going to sign JuJu Smith-Schuster to not keep him around. You're not going to sign him just to cut him. And obviously that has to mean someone that was making the team before now is not going to make it. Question is, who is that? But let's put that question on the back burner for just a minute and talk more about the benefits of adding JuJu Smith-Schuster back to this team. Guys, there's a lot of Chiefs fans out there that will justify players like CEH and McCole Hardman being on this team, despite the fact that they're awful football players, because they're a good locker room presence and they know the system and there's familiarity. So if you're one of those people that's okay with CEH and McCole being on this team, you should have zero issues with JuJu Smith-Schuster. And that's kind of how I'm looking at this. JuJu Smith-Schuster, at worst, you're bringing him in for locker room vibes, and you're bringing him in to be a leader in the locker room. And I'm perfectly okay with that, because if there's one thing this wide receiver room lacks a little bit, it's veteran leadership. Hollywood Brown is a veteran, but I said last year when the Chiefs wide receivers were struggling that JuJu Smith-Schuster is a guy we really underrated his loss, because he was someone that understood how to manipulate coverages to his advantage, and he knew how to sit in his zone. And none of the other Chiefs wide receivers last year really knew how to do that. They didn't really command respect the way JuJu Smith-Schuster did. And so there is benefit in adding a veteran like that once again raises the floor of this wide receiver room. And that's why I was also hoping the Chiefs would bring in multiple veteran wide receivers this offseason. Didn't expect the other one to be JuJu, but here we are, and I'm perfectly okay with it. Bringing JuJu back into the fold, even if he is only going to give you 200 or 300 yards, that is your wide receiver 4, is perfectly fine. And a good wide receiver 4 who understands his role and knows what he's signing up for. He understands what it takes to win a Super Bowl. He's been a team player for his entire career. I just don't know how you could have an issue with someone like that being on this team. People have also mentioned that this could be an insurance signing for a potential suspension for Rashee Rice. I don't think Rashee Rice will be getting suspended this year. All indications have been that he probably won't face a suspension until at least 2025. And with that said, I think the Chiefs were interested in bringing JuJu back regardless. I think they kind of knew that they wanted to bring him back as soon as he was released from New England, because there were still several question marks towards the bottom of the depth chart with that Chiefs wide receiver room. And if someone were to get hurt, things would have gotten messy. And also, Hollywood Brown's probably going to miss the first few games of the season. So, yeah, adding a veteran wide receiver still made a ton of sense. A lot of us wanted to see it done earlier this offseason. So, to say no to JuJu at this point in the offseason for the league minimum, I just don't really get that. We know Brett Veach is extremely aggressive when it comes to addressing weaknesses. The biggest weakness on this team last year was wide receivers, so Brett Veach is just adding more depth and more insurance to ensure that Patrick Mahomes has a reliable target in that passing game, even if a couple of injuries were to hit, or if a Rashee Rice suspension were for some reason to happen or come down at any point throughout the 2024 season. JuJu is a guy that Mahomes clearly trusts. At least he trusted him in 2022 when he was here. I think the chemistry will be pretty instant between the two. And I just think JuJu is one of those guys that even if he's your third receiver on the field or fourth receiver on the field, if they were to have four receivers on the field, that third or fourth corner, JuJu's got a pretty good chance of beating them still. Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown figured to take the top off of defenses this year in a way that we haven't seen in Kansas City in quite a while, and that means that there's going to be an opportunity for guys like JuJu Smith-Schuster to get those wide open targets over the middle of the field. I really do feel like the Chiefs missed his veteran presence last year, and so I'm very happy to have that back. At worst, he's your wide receiver 4, 5, maybe 6 that, is a good locker room presence, and he's a veteran leader, can mentor the younger receivers on this team. I see that as a win. And here's the other thing. If JuJu Smith-Schuster being on this team means that a combination of one or two of Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, and Kadarius Toney aren't on this team anymore, I'm perfectly okay with that too. I mean, that's a plus to bringing in JuJu. JuJu is just simply one of those guys that understands how to play with Mahomes, is kind of always there in the right spot, can bust zone coverage, and this wide receiver room last year just really did not have any of that, not until Rashee Rice emerged very late in the year. So, yeah, guys, I'm cool with this move. There's not too much else to say. JuJu Smith-Schuster, he gives you probably the best top 4 wide receivers, one of the best top 4 wide receivers in the entire NFL, which is quite the flip from last year when a lot of us were really worried about this wide receiver room. I just don't really think there's a reason to be worried anymore. You bring in more insurance, you bring in more depth. And I think JuJu's just like, he was a fan favorite when he was here. He's a super nice guy, brings good vibes. If you want to talk about a good locker room presence, that is JuJu Smith-Schuster epitomized. So I'm cool with this signing. I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs bringing back JuJu Smith-Schuster for the league minimum? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And with all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. And make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com for more. I'll see you all in the next one. Go Chiefs!